The holidays are almost here, and we are offering all Shifting Perceptions listeners an exclusive 15% off all posters and prints on jalders.com. Just use code SHIFT2018 at checkout. Hey, this is Jay.
And this is Chelsea.
Welcome to the Shifting Perceptions podcast.
We are bringing you inspiration to live a more creative lifestyle, because our favorite people are the ones that choose the path less traveled.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 13. This is Chelsea Alders. This week, we are here with the one and only Drew Brophy. Some magical things happened when we combined two surf artists to chat surf, art, science, chakras, universal laws, intentional creativity, and the energy in the universe. They got super nerdy and super gnarly in every direction. Join us today to learn about Drew's new shift towards science-based art, his amazing story, and how he got to where he is today in his ever-evolving career. And then have fun with us as we ride through Drew's stories of stand-up paddling through the Grand Canyon and surfing waves bigger than my house. Hearing Drew's humble beginnings of being told he wouldn't make it as a surfer or an artist, and his courageous leap into painting surfboards as a stepping stone will have your head spinning with possibilities. Let's jump in.
What's up, man?
Howdy. I'm out here in the West Coast, just getting rolling.
We are out here on the East Coast, pretty cold. It's snowing everywhere except for by us right now.
Yeah, sleet and rain right now. So gross.
Yeah, well, I just surfed lower trestle, so...
Good for you. Rub it in our faces.
Way better morning than we had, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So let's... I'm really excited about this. We were just mentioning that we've been in touch and known each other for over a decade, and we've never really had a proper, super extended long time to chat since before Chelsea and I had kids. We had a great hangout at your house in the backyard with some wine and a little campfire type bonfire thing.
Yeah, and Dylan was knee deep in his invention book. That's all I remember.
Yeah,
he had an amazing
super tall
invention book. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gotten taller and smarter. So
I can't imagine
for him. I wish I had both of those qualities.
Yeah, me too. It's a great thing to watch. Watch your kids grow up, and
it's the best.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So I want to start out where I think we're going to start out current day Drew Brophy. So starting out here, so you've been able to develop one of the most recognized styles in surf art. If someone mentions surfing and art, generally your name is brought up in the top few list for sure. And you've recently taken this giant leap to completely reinvent yourself and your style and immerse yourself in the fine art scene. And as someone who is in a similar genre of art and a working artist, I know that that's a courageous leap, and it takes planning and faith. And I would love to know how that started out for you and how it's been going.
Yeah, I think it's a natural progression. A lot of people don't think about the journey of an artist, and for me, the surf art stuff. I mean, I love to surf. It's been my whole life. Really passionate about traveling and surfing, and I really never set out to be a great artist. I set out to be happy and live the life that I wanted to, and I kind of got dealt two cards. Everybody gets dealt a set of cards in life, and I got surfing and I got art, and I was not that great at either one, but I was good enough to make a great life for myself. So I kind of look at that whole progression of surfing and being immersed in nature and meeting people was kind of like my education. So it took me 30 years, but I finally feel like I learned something, and I can create fine art paintings now with a lot more thought and a lot more intention behind it. And so, that leap, I think, I never considered myself a fine artist. And I never really considered myself that great of an artist at all. Just trying to feed my family. But, now I kind of can look back and say, well, wow, what do I want to put out into the world? How can I help people? How can I inspire people? And that's kind of what this whole new style of art's about. And it's not saying goodbye to the surf art. It's just saying a little bit more and reaching a broader audience. And I hope to combine the two styles one day and do something really cool.
I love that. I do see so much more intention in this. I think it is pretty cool. Whereas like maybe it was more playful to be doing the surf style. I think this new angle you've sort of been taking, I think it already does kind of combine both styles. But talk about that just intentional thing. Like, is it happening while you're painting, or is it just this broad scope of I want to see this big body of work out there be very intentional, or is it each painting?
It's kind of been this, I've had a big reflection year. I had the big museum show this year, and I had my book come out. And so in that process, I had to kind of reverse engineer my whole career and what I was trying to do. And it was very clear to me that I've always had this sense of responsibility of what I put out in the world. And back in the days when I was painting surfboards with like naked chicks on them and stuff, it was real juvenile, and it was, you're painting surfboards for 15 to 25-year-old guys. And, you're just having fun, and it's kind of like high school, like you're doodling skulls and things, and that's fun, just like kind of no thought, just kind of throwing it out there. But then you start to realize that this is having an impact on people, when you become successful. And I can remember way back then even thinking that I wanted to be careful about what I put out into the world, and that it was affecting people. So now, all these years later, my art's kind of a product of my commissions and my clients. And so they're always pushing me to do more. And I'd say about 6 years ago, I started getting clients more in tech and more in science. And they were paying me to articulate, difficult concepts and ideas. And, let's face it, some of these things are really hard to wrap your head around. So I was just having an education in those fields and trying my best to do a good job at articulating an idea. And I would say a lot of this fine art's a desperate attempt to understand what it was that I was learning. And I think that also that, the traveling of surfing, I've worked in 16 different countries painting surfboards and creating surf art, which that was something I never calculated. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. And then I probably traveled to over 30 different countries and surfing. In all those places, you're meeting wonderful people and you're experiencing their reality. And you're, for me, I always like getting off the beaten path and seeing like, it could be a stone tiki sculpture in Tahiti, or it could be an ancient city in Peru, or, just whatever there was to see. And I always loved that part of that travel. And so now it's come full circle where I'm like studying a lot of this stuff and putting it in my paintings. A lot of the symbolism.
So what was it about that? I know you talk so much about the sacred geometry and the physics of it all. What was it about that spoke to you the most? And when was that first? Like, what was that first moment of, I could draw this, like I want to put this into living color?
I got hired by a company to articulate a process of structuring water. And so I had to learn about it. And of course, surfing is all about water. And all my surf paintings have waves and exploding suns in them. So I'm very immersed in nature and very inspired by nature. And so when I went through this process of having to learn the science behind what makes water so amazing, it was really, heavy science. It got into electromagnetic fields and the different electromagnetic fields of elements and how that affects the structure, the molecular structure of water, the molecular lattice and such. And it was just blowing my mind, And I noticed, always as a surfer, just the way water moves, the way the atmosphere moves, and as artists, we see a lot more. So, I noticed the way plants grow and stuff, and so I was seeing the same geometry, because that's the way they were kind of articulating this information visually through geometry, and I was just fascinated by it. So, there again, I started drawing it and understanding that it was almost like a language to understand how things work. And then that got me interested in the mathematics, and it's a lot more than just sacred geometry. It's trying to understand the way people articulated information in the past, and they're trying to send it through time for us to understand it. And obviously they understood it, and now we're having to, reverse engineer this information. And you find it in art, music, it's composition, it's mathematics. The mathematics are unbelievable. That's what really gets me.
I think it's like awesome, and I know we've talked about this in private, but like things like the golden ratio and fractal geometry, it's like so mind-blowing, and it really crosses over mediums of from science to art to music, like you said. And I think part of our job as artists, like you said, is leaving a series of clues behind, and those clues are our best attempt to explain and explore and understand what's happening. When you were mentioning about water, I'm sure you know about like the famous like water experiments with Dr. Emoto, I believe his name was, who talked about like human consciousness and emotions actually impacting the crystallization patterns in water. And it's just incredible how like we influence our surroundings and vice versa. Oh my God, I can't talk. Vice versa. Gonna edit that one out. And it is just super interesting how we really are truly connected. And I know that's a big part of your mission as an artist lately, is to explore those things.
Yeah. I'd studied all Dr. Emoto's stuff, and Victor Schauberger, and there's a whole bunch of people studying water currently. But yeah, what I really liked is, there is a pathway of science that's revealing how this works. And I'm just finding that different clients are hiring me to do for different things. I mean, one of the other things, every piece of the puzzle is bringing something to the table. Every client, every commission that I do. And I got hired to do the yoga mat. So I was doing these killer yoga mats, and they wanted specific things, and I was kind of leading them down a path. And I have this few yoga mats that have the chakras, and the third eye chakra and the heart chakra. So I dove into that one and studied it, and it was really cool how it crossed over into everything else, which was, your heart is this transmitter, this EMF transmitter that, we totally lost control over. And, we call it like our emotional state. And that is what it seems to be affecting the water and affecting each other.
I love that, like that parallel to that. I think so. We have gotten a lot more into Reiki and chakras and all of that over the last couple of years. And I think the thing that's the coolest part about that is people think it's this hippy dippy notion of energy and light and whatever, but it's actually very science-based. It's like a tremendous amount of science.
Extremely science-based. Like, that's what's so bizarre about quantum physics, is it crosses over everything that we think we know about the world around us. And really, even if you are like the most cutting edge quantum physicist, you still don't know it all. You still have no idea. It's still bizarre. It's still strange. We can make all these theories about it, but there's so much going on that we will never have a clue over. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and once you're exposed to it and you have a glimpse of how it works, you're hooked and you're dedicated to figure it out. And I've been doing a lot of things with Nassim Harriman, who talks about this. He has a movie, The Connected Universe, and all his theories and stuff really revolved around how we're all connected and how we are. And it really seems to be through this field, and everything's working off this vibration, which we call, EMF, electromagnetic frequency. It's a vibration. And what people, I think, really need to get out of this is you have this EMF transmitter that's transmitting 24 hours a day, and you are not controlling it. And you do have the ability to control it. And so that really interests me. So for me personally, I'm constantly trying to better myself and understand, like, what is it that I'm putting out into the world? It kind of goes back to the art. So the art's like an extension of that. But each one of us is, sending out a vibration. And it's really hard to control that vibration. And a great analogy that I give people so they can understand it is, we're floating in this field, let's say all of us. And there's ripple effects throughout this field that each one of us do. And so mastering this transmitter was kind of like floating on your back in the ocean. So everybody can kind of float on their back, right? And it's takes some concentration, but you can do it. And if the water's totally calm, it's pretty easy to do. And you sit there and you're like floating on your back and you're like, okay, I got this. But if you lose your concentration, you'll start to sink. Your feet will sink or something. So even if there's like a slight wave in the water, you can still do it and get in rhythm with it. Then you could add like a wind swell, let's say, and it's splashing water on your face, but you could still do it. You could hold your concentration, but it takes effort. But the real problem is you're not in the water by yourself. You're surrounded by other people trying to do the same thing or possibly drowning. So if you are, mastering this transmitter and you're a stable island in this water, you might have other stable people want to get up next to you, and together you're stronger. Or you might have somebody who's next to you who is flailing and causes you to sink or cause you to lose your concentration.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
And so you just have to imagine all of us potentially have the ability to affect the ones right next to us, or potentially ones very far from us. And the stronger we are, the more we're able to, be conscious of what we're putting out as this vibration, the better off everybody's going to be. So if you blow up and throw out this gnarly vibration next to you, the person who's desperately concentrating to float on their back, you knock their concentration off. It doesn't feel good to them.
Yeah, living in a house of 3 toddlers, I can tell you that's very true.
Yeah, it's like, you're sitting there floating on your back and somebody just does a big cannonball next to you.
Yeah, daily.
And I think like the next level of that is being in touch and aware enough to be next to someone who is flailing, in your example, and still being able to like float on your back and let all those different energies flow through you, and combining your energy with the energy that you choose to, and while ignoring the energies that are hurting you. And again, that goes back to like quantum physics. Like one of the most fascinating things I have found by studying that is like quantum entanglement, how we really do have an impact, and we are entangled with not only each other, but like all molecules throughout the entire universe have this connection that's like unexplainable. And if our consciousness and our energy can affect the crystallization of water, then there's no doubt that our energies are not only affecting our own bodies and our own health, but like everyone around us, our art, what we get out of life, what we give to life. It's all connected. It's truly incredible.
Yeah, and it's real. I like, for my personal exploration. I like to meet the real people, like the people who are telling things. So I like to go see them live or go on trips with them. I like being able to be in reality, just be in the here and now. And I think a lot of people look at some of these things as, because they haven't researched it or they haven't experienced it, they don't understand these mechanisms, and so they'll say like, oh, it's woo woo or something like that, but it really isn't. And I just think it's an exciting time because I feel that there's a lot of people that are on this journey and are just noticing something more. And I think we used to be that way. I think they, you look at school today, like, wouldn't it be great if you had a mechanism or a language that could teach all subjects? So like people who are good at math and they feel like they're bad at art, but you could show them a way that math is art and art is math.
Right. Instead of separating it, making people realize that everything really is overlapping.
Yeah, and so, when you look at, the geometry paintings, what it's describing is the mechanism in which the universe works. And so it's all the same thing. And the reason why we like certain music or we like certain art or, certain elements are amazing is because of the way they're composed, how they're structured. And we're like EMF detectors. Our eyes and our ears and everything are geared to see perfection or reach for perfection. And I just find that amazing. I mean, we're creators and we're designed to seek this perfection. And a great example is like a sour note music.
Yeah.
Nobody likes a sour note music. Everybody can identify it. And that's pretty interesting. In art, people see paintings and, a lot of, like, I know you've probably taught kids too. You see these young kids and they're naturally good at drawing. They just go and it's full of life. And then somewhere around 10, 12 years old, they go, I don't know how to do it. And they get confused with technique and medium versus art. So you can be a master at a medium, but your art still suck, like you look at it and you don't like it, it's dead. But yet a child can pick up a crayon and make something amazing. So what that's telling me is that, without that underlying composition and design and energy, it doesn't matter how technically well you can paint. It's not the same thing. And so it's kind of like that with music. I mean, music is, it can be simple or it can be like, Beethoven. And I really do think that certain rhythmic sounds and things like that are doing something to you. And I think great art, and I think these geometric paintings, people like them, or it sets them at ease, or it's unlocking something in their inner consciousness that's allowing them to see more or appreciate it more.
Yeah. Well, so in relation to that, with your past art career, I think even in just discussing us as EMF transmitters, I feel like as I get older, different things speak to me in different ways. And I can actually look back past, even using music as our example, like what music spoke to me at different chapters of my life. And it's funny, we were just talking about this with Jay's art because he has these really cool waves and phases that moved through his career, but they all sort of coincide in these interesting chapters of our life. Like you can kind of see the tones change or the way that they were sort of emotionally responding to maybe what was going on in our world. So with your art, since you are making this shift towards this, are you looking back now and seeing these different maybe you said the energy that's coming off of them, but maybe these patterns that you were creating that were emotionally in a different place? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we set up my museum show, we had to break down the different chapters, and it's very clear that, in my early 20s, I mean, I was in a very dark place as far as, I think that's the hardest time period for a young person is, when you're first responsible for yourself and you're out in the world and, you find out the world's a harsh place.
Yeah, that's when like Eminem comes into my playlist, is right around that. Like an aggressive and
yeah, and so, that's why a lot of that art was, juvenile, and it was skulls and just, whatever. But when I met my wife, Maria, and had my son, you saw the art change dramatically to everything being happy.
Yeah.
And, so, it is an extension of you, and you're putting this out, and it's and there again, it's emotion. I mean, that's what you're putting into the painting, and emotion is the EMF language that's being put out into the world. That's what we call it, is emotion. And some people have control and some people don't. As soon as you lose control of your emotions and you get angry or sad or something like that, you're all over the place.
I think like creating art is fascinating because, like you said, you're kind of like leaving your own history of clues of what's going on in your own life. But then when I think about like painting on a different level, what we're actually looking at is like a combination of certain colors. And you had mentioned about how putting certain structures and things and certain colors have different frequencies and they have different energies, but like on like an atomic level, let's say, or on a microscopic level, those colors are really nothing more than different types of pigments. And then if you break it down again, they're different frequencies. So it's, even if you like look at one of your paintings or my paintings, if you like break it down to that micro, even, quantum level, it's really just energy and the restructuring of certain frequencies and we are interpreting it as subject matter, or we're interpreting it as a narrative, but it is so fascinating how there is like this structure, these frequencies, and like when things work and when things click, it really does seem to fall in line with what our visual senses, interpret as being like tranquil or interpreted as being energetic or harsh or juvenile. It's interesting how we interpret those things.
Yeah, so I mean, I like to think of artists in general. They're more open. They're seeing more. I mean, you take it for granted that everybody sees the world. Like especially as an artist, you think everybody sees it that way, but they don't. Guys like us, and whatever your discipline is, you're basically getting more information in that discipline. And as artists, basically what we're doing is creating something that allows people to experience it too, or have them be able to experience something more. And the crazy thing is like you were saying, like our eyes and our ears and touch and everything, taste, is all EMF detectors. The problem is they're so limited. We're missing, we only see this narrow bandwidth of light. We're missing most of it. If you think of this energy, and we're only seeing, I think it's like, 10% of the light spectrum. That means we're missing 90% of what's traveling around. And so, same thing with sound. We're only hearing a small bandwidth of sound. So what are we missing is what we should be asking ourselves. And so it seems that we're missing a whole lot, and that this emotional thing, this thing we call feelings, is almost like a better, broader detector than, our eyes and our ears. So you just wonder, like, okay, if I'm feeling a certain way, what is that? And why is that happening?
Yeah.
I always think about animals, because animals don't have language, but yet it's the whole animal world seems to get along just fine, and they know exactly what's going on. They know when danger's coming. They know when it's safe. They know,
Yeah, there is like an intelligence, and some people call it God, some people call it quantum physics, some people call it art. Who the hell cares what you call it? But it's really all the same thing. And like, that's one of the reasons like I love painting oceans, and I'm sure you as well, because like the ocean is probably the biggest example, or the most obvious example for those of us living on the coast, of how everything, all energy, is both wave and particle, and we get to view it from so many different perspectives at the same time. You can look at water and it could be transparent, it could be opaque. You can look at it from the perspective of all the sea life that lives underneath it. You can look at it from a weather perspective on how wind affects the swells, or how sun affects the ocean and the tides and the moon. There's so many different ways to interpret it and to look at it. And I think transposing that artist's eye on the rest of the world is probably why a lot of people love art and are intrigued by how the art is created. And I would love to like rewind for a second and Gab, talk about what got you here in the first place. Could you touch upon maybe a little bit about how you grew up and how you got to become Drew Brophy, the famous and well-known and talented surf artist?
How did I get here?
Yeah, like, so I know you grew up, in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, so I grew up by the ocean in South Carolina, and it was amazing because I was surrounded by nature, and I grew up fishing and surfing and hunting. And I would say once I discovered surfing, it was such an outlet of just riding. Something about riding waves is just so amazing. It's kind of to your point, it's like the heartbeat of the planet. I mean, just it feels so great, and it's such a unique experience. And so once that, as you're hooked, and we're lucky, my friends and I, that there was a guy who opened up a surf shop, and he got us involved in surfing contests and got us to qualify to come to California and go to Hawaii. And so as a young kid, like 15 years old, I was going to California and Hawaii and surfing. And being from South Carolina, I mean, California and Hawaii might as well have been like going to the moon.
Right.
And once I had traveled and seen more of the world, I mean, there was no stop. I mean, I wanted to see all of it. So that's how I got started. I got hooked in surfing. So when I graduated high school,
Were you doing art at that time, Drew? Like, was art always a part of your life?
Yeah, so it's cool because I just had, I had to put all this in my book, and it was a little painful, but a lot of people don't realize that's all I've ever done is surf and create art. So that same gentleman, his name's Mark Allison with Surf City Surf Shop. He recognized that I was good at art, so he had me do some logos and stuff, as a young teenager. And, I'm very lucky that, and this is important for artists to understand, that, there's people that want to help you, and they might see something in you that you don't even know. And I would say that's what my community did for me. And it was mainly the surf community, that they didn't want me to fall through the cracks. And so they gave me jobs, designing logos or T-shirts or in newspaper ads. And they weren't that good, but it allowed me to participate and feel good about myself. When I graduated high school, even though I'd taken art and I wanted to go to art schools, they were too expensive. And even though I went and visited all the great art schools like Ringling and Cal Arts, and I mean, just looking at how much they cost, I knew I couldn't go. And then I aspired to be a pro surfer, but being from South Carolina, it was just too hard. I just kind of gave up on that. And, when all my other friends went to college, I got a job designing T-shirts for the local screen printer.
And you were still in South Carolina at that point?
Yeah. So, and I had a studio at that time. I realized that I wasn't qualified to get a full-time job at the screen printer, so I decided to try community college and to have some drawing classes. And I showed up, and it was like all retirees and people taking it as an elective. And it really bummed me out because, when I graduated high school, my guidance counselor was worried about me and was like, Drew, what are you going to do? My grades weren't that great because I'd been traveling, surfing so long, and they actually weren't even going to let me graduate because I'd missed so many days being out of town. But I told them, I was like, gosh, if I was the star quarterback, I mean, you guys would be like having a pep rally for me. But since I'm a surfer, nobody really cares about that, and everybody thought I was stupid, and art wasn't taken seriously. And so she's like, I'm worried about you. You can't surf and do art for the rest of your life. You got to get your act together. And it really made me upset because she basically told me the two things that I was good at weren't worth pursuing. And I was getting that from a lot of people. And
yeah, I mean, it's not the most obvious career pursuit to be like a pro surfer or an artist, from a societal standpoint. The
Especially
odds
at
are stacked
that
against
time.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, at that time it was like, ridiculous. And I think that's, one of my missions is to that whole starving artist thing. Because, I mean, of course, everything has to be designed. In my mind, almost everything is art. So I really want to get that paradigm beat out of social consciousness because it's like the worst thing ever. I mean, that all these creative people are basically being told that you can't make a living, and it's absolutely not true. I mean, you and I are examples of that, but like every person that's in a graphic designer, from an illustrator to, designing clothes, cars, industrial design, you name it, they're all artists. And so that's an inaccurate idea that's being pushed out into this world. It's not true. And it's a shame that people give up before they ever get started.
Yeah, I mean, art is everywhere. Even the most less obvious places like business, like their logos, their product design, like everything is art. And like, I think the other side of like the starving artist is like the person that's not starving, this person in society who has a job, that has a fancy car, that has all that, but that's more common. But then they are starving of creativity, they're starving of culture, they're starving of fulfillment and purpose, except that's not talked about because it's just expected to be like a cog in the wheel of the big machine of society. And, being starved of those other important aspects of life, that's just like a given.
Well, and I think that leads us to like the topic of, we were talking about this before we jumped on with you. I remember a time when you were raising Dylan, and didn't he get kicked out because you guys were traveling too much, or you had to homeschool?
Yeah, so the school was not happy that we were traveling so much, and I think we were in New Zealand. We'd like left and went and lived in New Zealand for like, a couple months, and the school like flipped out, like, what are you doing? And but in my mind, and I'd already experienced this, that travel and reality was the best, education you could ever have.
Yeah, like we could not like agree more. I mean, I feel like that's one of our biggest priorities with, our kids are in Montessori right now, but thinking about this, like they can only miss 7 days a year situation they have in public school just feels ridiculous when they could go see the entire world. I remember having so much respect for you guys for choosing to travel and homeschool. And I'm leading back to this because I feel like this whole thing of like being the artist, being the traveler, like all of that, it needs to shift in our society. Like there's a big problem there. It's like we don't cultivate any of that anymore.
Yeah, well, it absolutely right. Not only does it have to shift, it's shifting. And there's the old paradigm is fighting to the death to not give it up.
Let's go back to your past. So then you were surfing and doing art still. Now you're at the screen printer. So I know you ended up moving to Hawaii. So when did that where'd you get the courage to do that? How did that happen?
Well, yeah, I went to community college and I gave up on that really quick, just because I knew I was in the wrong place. The people there weren't taking it seriously. I wasn't happy because now I wasn't traveling anymore. I was like, everybody was telling me I had to grow up. And, I had my own studio and that was struggling. I realized I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about art. But this is all I had. I had going back to that, everybody gets a set of cards. I was like, man, I got the two crappiest set of cards ever.
Yeah.
I got like a pair of twos, and I'm trying to play this game of poker, and so I got really depressed actually, and I felt like the whole world was against me. So I said, well, screw it. If the whole world's against me, I'm just going to go surf. So I went surfing in Mexico. I just gave up and went down there to live for the summer. And the waves get giant down in Mexico. And it was like the first time I felt at home, like with myself, like I felt like I belonged somewhere. And I think it's interesting. I think the universe is conspiring to make all your dreams come true. Because, in that space of just trying to be happy, I had some photos taken of me on giant waves, and since I was from South Carolina, everybody made a big deal out of it. Like, wow, there's some kid from like tiny waves that's actually riding really big waves, and
Yeah.
so that felt good. And I was always painting my own boards. I was making money painting boards in South Carolina too for Perfection Surfboards, Kelly Richards. And I was terrible at it, but they let me paint boards anyway because they didn't really have anybody. But they didn't want me to fall through the cracks. And so I painted my boards, and I got a shot in Surfer magazine because the boards looked so cool. And a friend of mine, a pro surfer, saw my board and said, "Gosh, that board's so cool." And I said, "Thanks." And he'd asked if I was going to Hawaii, and I said, "No, I don't think I could afford it." And he said, "Well, that's too bad." And it just struck me in that moment of I asked him, I said, "If I went to Hawaii, do you think I could get a job painting surfboards?" And he said, "Absolutely." And I think that was the first time I realized that maybe my pair of twos could work to my advantage, and maybe I could find a way to be happy. And when I went back to South Carolina, I felt like I got knocked back to go, and had I used to rip out floors for my father. I thought I was going to be destined to surf small waves and rip out floors for my dad. But there again, the universe is conspiring to help you. You just have to be listening. And I was listening one night when I heard a table full of people talking about Hawaii. And I was sitting by myself, and my ears perked up when I heard the words Hawaii, and it just so happened this guy was telling a story about being in Hawaii and working in a surfboard factory. And, talk about a serendipitous moment, but I butted in the conversation, which was not like me. I was kind of a shy person. And I told the guy I painted surfboards here in town in South Carolina. And he was like, "Wow." He goes, their airbrusher just quit. He goes, "You should call him if you'd like to go out there." And I mean, like it was no big deal. And he wrote down this dude's number on a napkin and gave it to me. And he left.
Wow. That's a crazy story.
And yeah, right. So about a month earlier, I had this pro surfer tell me that I could get a job in Hawaii if I went. And then I just happened to overhear a conversation, and next thing you know, I just had a phone number. And so the next morning, I was scheduled to work for my dad, ripping out carpet and tile. And I'm looking at this number, and I'm like, "Wow, I should call the number." And so I snuck off to the office and called the number, and this dude answers the phone, and I blurted out that "Hey, I paint surfboards, this, that, and the other." And the guy's like, "Dude, you know what time it is?" I forgot about the time difference, so I woke him up in the middle of the night. But yeah, so he said, yeah, we're looking for an airbrusher. And I said, oh, well, that's great. Maybe I can get my act together and be out there in about a month. And he said, no, you don't understand. We need somebody like by the end of the week.
Oh my gosh.
He said, if you could get here by Thursday, maybe we could test you out and give you a try and, let me know. And so that I was like instantly thinking, no way, that's impossible. But I was listening. I think, as artists, we're a little bit more sensitive, and I understood that this was like the crossroads of my life. And I walked into my father's office, and I just told him, I said, Dad, I was just offered a job in Hawaii, and he didn't even look up at me, like not listening. And then so I said it sterner, and he looked at me like, what's this nonsense you're talking about, because you got work to do. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that I knew that this was the moment. And I just said, Dad, if I don't go, there's nothing ever great going to happen to me. Like I knew that this was that moment. And my dad had this vision of me working with him and being together. And he knew it too. He knew I was dying on the vine, like I was not doing well. And he got up from his desk, and he back then they had travel agencies, and there was one across the street. He walked across the street, bought me a one-way ticket to Hawaii.
Wow.
And,
oh my gosh.
So was that always part of your personality? Because what you just described, that like career shift, is pretty much a great comparison to like, surfing big waves. Like a wave is coming, you see it on the horizon, you have a split second to react and to get yourself in position, and then you have to like say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm paddling in, and you have to like, just take it. And it sounds like you approached your career, the swell of your career, in the same way. You saw it. You're like, this is my chance. I got to paddle in. Has that always been part of you?
Yeah, I guess. I just, and just looked at it as, I was trying to be happy. I was going towards what felt good.
Right.
And even though it was scary, like, my dad bought that ticket, and I left everything I knew, my family. It was really hard.
Yeah.
It was like dropping in on a giant wave or jumping off a cliff or jumping out of an airplane or something. You're like, I have no idea how this is going to work, but I have faith that the universe wants me to do this. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gave me that option.
Yeah, it was such a perfect lineup right there of everything. Just suddenly, it was like there was no other option, really.
Yeah. So, and this gets back into being able to control your transmitter, your heart is, what in Think and Grow Rich, I think it talks about, you are what you think about most of the time.
Yep.
That's why it's so important to dream and to know what it is that you want. It's not happen instantaneously. It's on a delay. So basically, all my desires that I've been wanting for so long finally presented itself. And it doesn't always present itself in ways that you visualize. It gives you like a curveball. And so you just always want to be going closer to what you want, closer to, what feels good. And so part of that is recognizing these opportunities that come your way. And you got to remember that you asked for it. And it's also a good reminder that you need to be careful what you think about, who you hang out with, and the things that you do, because you'll get that too.
Yeah, I think I see such a parallel also from an art perspective of things, because like when I'm painting, obviously I've studied art, I've practiced it, so I have a fluency there. But, when people talk to me, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this also, when people ask me like how you painted this or that, or how you knew what color, so much of it is feel. Like when I'm going to my palette and I'm picking a color, or I'm choosing a certain line over another, or a certain technique over another, sure, I have a background, fluency and experience of mistakes and successes, but when it comes down to it, I'm just going to like what feels good. And then when you look back, you're like, oh crap, I just made a whole painting just based on nothing but leaning a little bit in towards a good feeling as opposed to one that feels oppositional.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I tell the kids, or some of the younger artists, that they're trying so hard. Try not to try so hard. You want it to flow. So you look at it as, whether it's sports or music or anything, it's all about flow. And if there is this field, it's all about flowing in the field. You want the universe to flow through you. And when you don't resist and you get into that flow, magical things happen.
Yeah, which actually comes back to those chakras. I know when we talk about, there's an amazing midwife I work with a lot, but she'll talk about how you can tell when women aren't sort of like their heart chakra is blocked. It's a sense of like it comes through our heads down and then just shooting out of our heart, where it's almost like out of body and we can't tune back in. It's like you almost have to have this clean flow straight through your body in order to feel that flow.
Mm-hmm.
Drew, I'd love to pick your brain on big wave surfing. Like you've surfed some massive waves, ones that I wouldn't even think twice about even trying.
Yeah, hell no.
And I would love to know the mindset of that, but also I would love to know how that like helps you or puts itself into other areas of your life. Like with your art, is there a big wave equivalent to putting everything on the line with your art, or is there an ideal situation that you're working towards with your art that is the equivalent of like, holy crap, this is like the 40-foot wave of my art career? Like, how does that energy, that courage, that commitment, that craziness, how does that manifest in other areas of your life?
Well, the surfing big waves was, it's been a lifelong pursuit of, small increments forward, but I can just remember as a kid seeing waves at Pipeline and just, man, I want to do that. I think it's either something you want it so bad, or you're like, no effing way am I going out there. So to me, once I realized I really wasn't going to be a pro surfer, I just wanted to go to all these waves and all these places and have an experience with it while it was doing its thing. Like I had no, I go out when all the professional guys are out, and, I know all those dudes, but I'm not doing the same thing they are. They're trying to get their photo taken and trying to push, and, they're doing something different. I'm really trying to appreciate the fact of being there in that moment, because it takes so much effort to prepare yourself, to make the decision to take off work and go to this place and have all your stuff. And, it's just such a difficult thing to pull off, just logistically, to be at one of these places when the waves are amazing, especially if you're not a pro surfer. And there's a lot of dudes like me who are just underground guys who just love to be in Mother Nature when it's doing its thing, the waves don't get that big that often, and when they do, it's like the most amazing thing ever. It's kind of like one of those tornado chasers or something.
Yeah, that's it. Is you really do have to strategically place yourself. I think that's something like we're in and out with surfers that we truly respect, and we've seen them in their prime, sort of watching their computer and obsessively watching tides. And sometimes, honestly, I sit there and think like, the amount of time it takes to predict and then strategically place yourself, it seems like one of the craziest sports in that sense.
Yeah, and nobody talks about all the times it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
so
right.
I've spent $5,000 to go somewhere and show up, and it didn't happen. And you're just like, oh man. And then so you're a little gun shy to do it again, because you're like, wow, am I going to waste all this time and money? But for me, it's really to be in nature's glory when it's just doing its thing, and then you get out there, and then you're hopefully prepared to go, and it's hard to catch those big waves, so your wave count goes way down. So you might only catch one or two waves, or sometimes you'll catch none. But being out there with the other people and having that experience, you never felt so alive. I mean, I think when you're surfing is hyper present. And I think a lot of people are walking around and they're not present at all. They're not really living. They don't get it. But something about surfing, it just forces you to be like so hyper present. And especially when you're riding the wave. I mean, I think that's danger in general. But, so for me, that's that pursuit. I just want to keep doing it. I have a lot more big waves I want to surf. And there again, I don't want to be like, like some of these dudes on TV and stuff. I just want, at the end of the day, I just want to say I did it. And I did my best I could. And so whatever's good enough for me. So if I get a couple waves at Mavericks this year, I'm happy. If I go up there and make the effort and I don't catch any waves, I'm happy. At least I tried.
Yeah, so much of that like goes again with like having a career in art. So much of it is just showing up at the easel, putting yourself out there. You might make a painting that sucks. You might make a painting that changes your whole career. But it's just like the difference between someone like you and myself is like we commit to like keep creating, keep trying, keep pushing, keep doing your thing until something eventually clicks.
Yeah, and I think that is the kind of the link is showing up and saying this is who I am and this is what I do, and it's the same thing as surfing. So I'm not claiming that I'm anything like those pro surfers who have are doing all this great stuff. It's just that I want to try. And so art is the same thing. I'm not saying that I'm a Picasso or anything like that. I'm just going to do the best I can. If people like it, great. If they don't, then maybe I'll try harder. But I'm just trying to be the best person I can be. I'm trying to create the best work I possibly can. And, I put that in my book. My art was terrible at one time, absolutely terrible. And it's not that great now, but it was good enough to create this life for me. And it makes some people happy. So that's enough.
Yeah, I think it's so crazy that you still talk about manifesting, Drew. Come on, change that sentence that your art's not that good right now.
well, not in the sense of what people think art is, so.
So, all right, I'll put you on the spot. What is art? Go.
Well, art is the ability to translate or articulate ideas. So it's what you're feeling. So it just goes back to what we said earlier. Like I could look at your art and tell what you were feeling or where you were at, and this whole story of your life. And you could do the same with me. And so I think the secret to it is for guys like us who have really stuck it out, you build up this reputation or this persona that okay, this is what this guy does, and more and more people become part of your story, and it's more than just the art. It's this lifelong pursuit of translating information or the way you experience the world, and people like that. And a lot of people like that who are incapable of experiencing the same world. They can't do it. They're not seeing as much as you. So that's the same thing music is or mathematics is. It's all the same thing. It's allowing people without that ability to share in it, and it makes them feel good. Or maybe you're going to create something that makes them think. It's sharing information. So it's all those things.
So can you talk about how your art has reflected your life in various phases? Because someone that's not an artist might look at, let's say, the past decade of your work, and they might say, yeah, that's Drew Brophy's style. It's very obvious that's his style. And I might look at it and see nuances that someone else might not see. But can you talk about perhaps some evolutions of your work that still remain within the boundaries of the Brophy style that maybe do reflect areas of your life, or have that show us where the trail is of how you've evolved, like on a personal level, maybe things people can look for in your art, like, oh yeah, I never noticed how he changed, the light or the sun, or I see how he changed the colors, or oh yeah, he changed how he started rendering water at this particular year. Like, can you give us some examples so people can look at it and see what we're talking about?
Yeah, it was just a constant refinement of just, mastering a technique that I kind of developed on my own, because I didn't grow up painting with brushes, and, I've discovered those Posca pens and nobody knew what they were. And I've developed a way to paint with them. So, I mean, I think the Posca pen in general is kind of the basis of my style, the colors, the base colors that they have. But then from there, it was the combinations of blends that I would put together with that, and then just the complexity of the designs. So they got more and more complex as I got better and stuff. So, now when every one of my paintings tells a story. And, so, the stuff that I'm painting today just has so much more thought into it. Whereas the earlier stuff was just kind of like a gut reaction. It was like messy, like a wave or a screaming skull, like I'm angry. So I just, like yelling at the world. But whereas today I have a lot more thought of like, okay, how do I want this person to feel? Or what, kind of drag them through the painting and all the symbolism and things. And they dive in, and they're almost like reading a story. And a lot of times those stories are, if it was commissioned, somebody telling me a story and I'm trying to illustrate it, or I'm trying to, convey a piece of information, or, like designing products and stuff like that. It's, it's making them feel good about this. Like I'm working on packaging for soil products, and so they're made out of different things, and you just want people to like it and look at it and like, yeah, I want this one because I like the happy tree on it or something. But yes, it's just a refinement basically. Yeah. And it's just a refinement and a complexity, and the idea that, or confidence, I should say, to create something with a lot more thought. So somebody looks at it, they like it, they don't know why they like it. But guys like you and me know why they like it. Right. It's composition, design, it's the color, the subject matter. And I mean, I could paint something similar to my like famous sunrise painting every day of my life and sell it.
Yeah.
But I've told that story. Everybody gets it. Everybody would love to be on the beach with their, if they're a surfer and living on a little hut on some island and surf all day. I mean, that was my dream.
Well, and do you find that your fan base has changed as what your painting has changed? Like you're starting to tap into a different demographic?
Yeah. It was really rewarding to get some of these bigger clients over the last 10 years or so, and find it outside of surfing that they just like the art, because, it was an easy sell to the surfers. You paint waves and suns, and
they love it. Yeah,
they love it. So that wasn't a hard thing to conquer. But then to realize that people wanted my art because they just liked the art and the ideas and the wild style, because it's kind of surreal. So that felt good, and that allowed me to grow. And every client that I get, they push me and stretch me, and just like how we started with this, with the sacred geometry, really came out of a love affair of, it goes back to the big waves and studying meteorology, the science behind how big waves are made. And that led me to study solar dynamics. And then I get hired by a company to articulate the way these electromagnetic fields are structuring water, and what does that mean? What does that look like? And then that led to more companies. And what felt good is I never really looked at myself as art, or wasn't really trying to be something. At one point, I wanted to be the best surfboard painter because that's what I was doing. And when I accomplished that, I was like, well, and I mean by accomplished that, I mean I used to do 10 to 20 boards a day. I did it all over the world. It's like how much further can I take this thing? I got to broaden my horizons.
Yeah.
Not that I'm the best. I just mean that I've done it every which way, backwards and forwards, and
you got bored. You felt pigeonholed or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it really came just down to sheer work. I couldn't charge any more money, and to live in Southern California, I was going to have to do something different if I really wanted to have a family and succeed. So yeah. I branched out, but those opportunities with which each new commission or painting or client pushes me, and all this new art is really just where it's taken me organically. And that's the people that are asking me to do things. And I think they're asking me to look at an idea and try to create a painting so they can explain it to other people, or the other people can get it. And that feels good. And I would say last year, I had this museum show, and I keep saying I never felt like my stuff was like art or fine art. I didn't know what it was. I didn't care. I just was trying to be happy and do the best I could. But I did get that a lot from galleries, and you get snubbed by people like, oh, well, it's not real art. You paint surfboards, or you paint T-shirt designs, or you're an illustrator. And so I kept getting slapped back into, by people who the pretentious art crowd, and whatever. But when the museum wanted to do a whole show with me or exhibit, it felt good. And I was a little nervous because I still didn't really believe that my art was, worth that, or was it going to look good in the gallery, or was it going to be well perceived? And then it was a total success. We had 1,200 people show up opening day, and there was thousands of people there. It was all summer. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And it made me feel good, not just for me, but for all the other artists out there who are in my position of not really fitting into the box of whatever people think art is or artists are. And it doesn't matter anymore, because somebody can say, well, your stuff's not real art, or it's not this, or it's not that. And I'm like, well, whatever it is, I just had a museum show, and people seem to like it. So it doesn't matter what you call it.
Yeah, it's speaking to people. That's really all that matters. And I think that's my definition of art, is that if it's eliciting some sort of emotional reaction, then there's art there, right? There's something to be said. And that has to feel pretty cool for, a boy from South Carolina dealt a shitty hand in his eyes.
Yeah, and it did. It really did. And so, yeah, it's just been a neat journey.
That's great. Well, I wanted to ask, because I know we're coming to a close, but there's something we didn't touch upon that I've actually always wanted to talk to you about, is just where on earth did this quest for the river rafting come about? And talk to us a little bit about that. Was that as exhilarating as this big wave surfing, or what was this journey?
Oh, the stand-up paddling down the Colorado?
Yes.
Yeah. That happened real organically too, of just when stand-up paddleboarding kind of was nowhere, and Laird Hamilton was doing it. My good friend Ron House was making Laird stand-up paddleboards, him and Jerry Lopez. And so we all started doing it, Ron and myself and Jerry, and everybody thought it was stupid, but we liked it. It got us in the water. And anyway, so I was an early adopter of that. And then I taught a friend of mine who was a professional kayaker how to stand up board, and he loved it. And it just so happened that his family got a permit to do the Colorado, and I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. he just asked if I wanted to go, and I was just like, yeah, it sounds great.
Hmm.
And it was one of the most terrifying and life-changing experiences ever.
Yeah. In what way? So what was it like?
Well, it was just the sheer beauty of it all was unbelievable. It was like that same feeling of riding big waves, of having to be super present, but having to be super present all day. And then totally removed from all modern life for 16 days and having to do everything on your own, and depend on each other. Super dangerous. And so, yeah, it took us 16 days, 265 miles or something, and there's no way out. And so,
so how does that start? Do they bring you down? Like, how do you start this journey? Sorry, I'm so interested in this. I want to know the details. So
no, it's amazing. Sorry, I just kicked something, but
okay.
It's really cool. You start at the bottom of Lake Powell, which is the Utah-Arizona border. They have a big dam there, and just shortly after the dam, there's a place in Marble Canyon called Lee's Ferry, and you have to get a permit. The Park Service was saying, you're absolutely insane. There's no way you guys are going to be able to do this. There have been a couple people that had attempted already. Laird Hamilton was one. I think he did a portion of the river, and I think his board broke or something, and then he had to hike out somehow. And then there was another guy from Hawaii that paddled some, but he was really in a raft and then just paddling the flat water. Seth and I were the first guys to do it from start to finish on our feet. I mean, I paddled every inch of it.
So how many miles do you do per day, and like what does that equal in hours? Like how much paddle time per day?
I think we tried to do like 16 to 20 miles a day. You had to do a lot of miles, so it was a full day.
And how much of that is like work paddling, or is it the river pulling you? Like how is it, or just back and forth?
I see Chelsea's wheels turning. She's like, "Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna try this." I know where this is going. We're gonna have a flight book to Colorado.
It's super physical. So the water's 42 degrees. It's freezing, and then inside the canyon, it could be over 100, and it snowed on us one night. So the change in temperature is like radical. But you have to be hyper present because, I mean, the water's moving. There's things that can drown you and kill you like every step of the way.
And Maria is just cool with all this stuff. Like
she packed your bag and said, "Have fun, honey." Like, how does that work?
I don't think she had any idea either.
How serious it was.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of green. I kind of felt like I'd surfed giant waves. How bad could this be? But
so Drew, you talked about like how parenthood changed your art, but like parenthood didn't put anything in you. Like maybe I shouldn't go like charge Mavericks, or shouldn't go on the stand up paddle on like these roaring rapids.
You kept
like,
your confidence.
There's never a
that?
moment where you're like, I got kids, 2 kids now, and you're like, oh, I'll just do it anyway and hope Maria doesn't find out. Or
no, I mean, it's calculated risk. I mean, if I wasn't in good shape, or haven't been working towards this my entire life, you wouldn't be able to do it. A guy was like an average surfer, and he decided he wanted to go paddle out at Pipeline or Mavericks. You would probably advise against it because there's no way he'd die for sure.
Right. So you felt trained for this, like mission.
Yeah,
we'll call it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole Grand Canyon experience was so great on so many levels because it's saw a lot of Indian artifacts, which goes back into sacred geometry. Writings and things on the canyon walls. They're communicating, and so that was really radical. Places that people don't get to go to that are difficult hikes within the canyon, which are super dangerous, by the way. And yeah, that whole process of just being there and doing it, and having to do it, like you don't want to die. So like, you're like, okay, there's no way I got to go down this thing. And
you can't change your mind ever at any point during this process.
Yeah. And I mean, we had a lot of close calls. We had to rescue some people, and, some really dangerous situations where we almost lost a couple people. I mean, people drowning there all the time, and it happens really fast. And it made me feel good about myself because of some of the things that happened. It made me realize that I was a lot stronger than I thought, physically and mentally. And it made me feel good that when shit hit the fan, that I didn't flinch, So that felt good, and that all that's training too. So it was almost like a big test, and I passed. So
yeah, no, one of like the ultimate tests, I think.
Yeah, and I think I think people need to test themselves. I think they need to push further out and constantly push, and that's what life's about. So at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you can say you've done it. At least you tried.
Have you had some memorable, scary stories from surfing? Some close calls that might be a good story to share? Like when you went out, like for instance, Mavericks or something like that, and you got back and you're like, I should not have freaking done that. Like, have there been moments?
Oh yeah. Every year.
Too many to count.
My most recent one, I was down in Tahiti, and I kind of screwed up and got too far down the reef, and it's a wave down near Chopu called Varao, which is like, it's super shallow. It's more shallow than Chopes, and same kind of wave. And I took off too deep, and I went to kick out of the wave and got sucked over the falls and ripped the whole top of my head off.
Oh my,
jeez, dude.
God.
So that was just a couple years ago, and that one was hard because my face almost ripped off. So that was, I had to hold it while I dove into these giant waves. And
yeah, I think that's what people don't think about with surfing. It's like in any other sport, if you get injured that bad, okay, you get injured and then, the whistle blows and you just call yourself out. But like with surfing, I mean, even like small hits or small injuries I've had, and I'm on tiny, tiny waves, you have to get your ass out of there afterwards. And that's like the worst part.
Yeah. And, we've done a lot of, some friends of mine, we've done all this like heavy water classes and rescue classes. And it's real humbling to realize that, when things go bad and somebody gets hurt, I mean, you got so little time.
Yeah.
And so you really have to be aware and being out there. I mean, there's a lot of great safety equipment now, which is good. I don't know why we hadn't had this for the last 30 years. It's just been the last few years, with the inflatable vest and that sort of thing. But like I had an inflatable vest on at that wave, but I needed a helmet, so I had the wrong safety equipment. But no matter what you do, I mean, if you're like, let's say I did the Grand Canyon 30 times, I mean, one of those 30 times I would have got hurt for sure.
Yeah.
If you're just rolling the dice. So if you surf big waves, whether, I've been hurt at Pipeline and Chopu and, Blacks, and I've been drugged forever at Mavericks, which sucks, but it's also that confidence
like
of
it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
You can't, it gets so frothy. You can't swim up to the surface. It's like you're in this foam. It's like you're in one of those giant foam pits, and you just can't get to the surface. And then you have like another building falling on you, and you're just like, great.
Well, that's what I want to ask about all like the big wave surfing. So we've touched upon sort of that energy that moves through painting. With this shift for you, that sort of understanding energy and understanding movement, how has your surfing changed? Do you feel more in tune to the wave?
Yeah. There again, it's trying not to try so hard, surfing is just, it's so amazing. And, all athletes can probably get this is, man, it is absolutely amazing that the human body can do the things that it does. and catching a big wave and being able to balance on this moving thing that's changing every millisecond, and you're balanced and having to make all these changes to be able to ride a surfboard on it. It doesn't even seem possible when you really think about it, but yet you do it. So it's understanding that, you're in the flow with this thing. You're either in the flow or you're out of the flow with it. So you have to be in the flow with it. And that causes you to be, super present. And I keep using that word because it's almost like time slows down. It's the only way I can think of that allows the micro adjustments to be able to do this. And in that moment, you'll notice my art, like, always have all these bubbles and stuff, because, like, when I'm riding a wave and I'm looking at the lip coming or ducking a tube, it's like I can see every drop of water. It's like it's in slow motion. And it just feels so great. It's just like, wow, I wish everything was like this. But, I think that's an indicator that there's a lot more going on than we think, and that, it's a deeper conversation, but, time and consciousness, like, what is it? And do we have the ability to manipulate it as far as just with our mind itself? And it seems like we do, especially if you've had these experiences like I have that really kind of feel like an out-of-body experience when you're riding in one of these giant waves and you're in the tube, and you see it on film. It happened in like 3 seconds, and you could swear you're in there for 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's actually what I've always loved about the art shows with Jay is when a surfer comes up to sort of talk about what he feels when he sees Jay's art, and I'm sure you have these same conversations, there seems to be a language and an emotion that exists that other people could never relate to. It's just this power that once you feel it, it's almost like in Jay's bones that he needs to portray it, like that power of the ocean. And I see it in your stuff, Drew, like you're talking about these droplets and all the movement. It's almost like when you feel it, it flows through you in a form of art. I think there's a really good parallel for artists and surfers.
Yeah, that's super interesting because it's like we were talking about, there's different kinds of art, and it's almost a stupid conversation to figure out like who's better, who's worse, who's whatever in the art world. And then it's like with surfing, even though I've never been on waves even close to what you've been on, the surfing experiences that I have and have had, they seem to affect me in the same way, just on a smaller scale. And it's like the sessions that I've had where you're like super present and the seagulls fly over your head and you're aware of every, like you said, droplet of water. And I find myself like tracing a ray of light and watching it travel through and bouncing off of the waves and becoming aware of so many things, but with complete ease and comfort and joy. And then being able to translate that through painting so someone else can now interpret that language that you're using to portray that feeling in that scene. There's something like so magical about that. And I definitely see that in your art. And, with surfing, it's just such another level of experience to be out there sitting on energy that is wave and particle and being a part of it all and being able to ride it. And you've done that so well on so many levels.
Yeah, I just wish I could paint better. I could articulate it better. Like a sunset never gets old. Or like when we're surfing and the dolphins are swimming by, or those birds are hugging the wind currents, and all that stuff. Like I see in your art, like it's almost like the people are like stretched out, like almost like super surreal, and it feels like that. It almost feels like you're being pulled towards the sun, or being, the animals are like you're just a part of it. You're not separate.
Yeah, I think like so much of that comes down to like golden ratio and like all these different geometries that are part of us, like the fractal geometry and the golden ratio within the human body, and then within nature. It's just such a energetic structure that we're all built upon. And so with my work, I feel like I try to like bend physics, and as long as it still works within that intuitive way that we perceive things, it'll still come off as believable, even though it's not real. And I think you do that really well too. You distort reality in a way where it's believable enough, but it's clearly not trying to be realism.
Yeah. Yeah, I think realism is kind of pointless because we have such good cameras now.
Right? I agree.
No, Jay always says that when he sees paintings he's like, that literally looks like a photo. It's the same thing.
I think realism is cool because it's like you're taking this thing and you're reproducing what you see, but I think it's more interesting to create realism from the stuff in your head. And the stuff in your head is never going to be exactly realism. You're going to have a warped, distorted view of things that you remember, things that you see. And if you could paint those strange, bizarre things in your head with an ability of realism to portray that, then I think that's so much more interesting. And before we go, I wanted to ask you, so like you have this part of you that creates art, you have this part of you that surfs big waves, and then this other part of you that is making a living from art. Can you talk about like how those things, how are those challenges different for you? Is one of those harder than another? Does one come easier? Like, is the career part of it the easy part, the hard part? Is the surfing the easier, hard part? Like, talk about that. I'm really curious.
Yeah, it's really kind of cool. I made the decision a long time ago that it's all one thing. Who I am and what I do, it's all the same. I just would, like I said, I wanted to be happy, and I wanted to be paid to be me, and I kind of did that, but I didn't know how to do that. So all the lessons in business and art and surfing that I got were picked up by little tidbits of from people all over the place. I was always like looking for a mentor to show me how to do it, and I never found that person. Just picked up like little bits of information. And when I, finally had met Maria and we decided to, be together and make a life for ourselves, we wanted that every ounce of energy that we put out, we wanted our family to benefit from. And we didn't want any separation, like, this is work and this is family. This is, that's seems so counterintuitive to me. Like, I put all this energy into a job somewhere that pays me money, but really doesn't give me anything else. And then I go have this life, and those things might not agree. They might take you in two different directions. So I didn't want that. I wanted everything we were doing to complement us and benefit us. And so, we've been able to travel and work in other places and make money and educate our children and be us. I really have to, show that Maria, she once she decided to do this, she was like a sponge trying to learn as much as possible. And a lot of the great ideas and success stories come from her, like doing the videos and the books and, really diving into contracts and making sure I wasn't getting taken advantage of. We're a true team. And
which we're excited to have Maria on. I think we're going to have her on in about a month. So we get to dive into that business side of this whole journey for you guys, which I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm stoked about that.
Yeah, because, it's a lot. When I was just doing it by myself, I was not the best. I was, how should I say? I was a really nice guy, but I would get taken advantage of because I was nice.
Yeah.
And
you act like Maria is like a bulldog, but I know what you mean. She's the strategic, because wasn't she like an insurance salesperson before all of this?
Yeah. So she did a lot of contract language. Yeah. So before I had Maria, like somebody would owe me money, and the only way I knew how to deal with it was like as a man is to go in there and
I'm going to beat you up.
Yeah. And jump him, right?
Like literally I'd go in, and so my clients were getting bigger, and like some CEO of some company owes me money, I'd go in there and threaten them.
Oh my God.
And
like a scene from Point Break.
I was like, dude, I'll rip this office apart. Like, and of course that didn't go over too well. And
So you wouldn't advise doing that to an artist listening?
No, but there was also just that was all around those lost years of, doing stuff for new people. And
Yeah.
I would, I grew up in the South, and I think I put this in my book, and that all these traits I was given as, being a man of my word and a hard worker and doing what I said I'm going to do, it didn't seem to work in the real world, that all these people were bullshitting you and lying to you. And I didn't know what to do with that. And the only thing I knew how to do is to call them out on it. Like, look, man, what part of you said you were going to pay me on Friday? Didn't you understand?
Yeah.
And, you put that with starving, not having money, and even though you worked really hard, then you're broke, and some guy owes you money, and he, so that those things didn't go together well. And I finally kind of worked that out by the time I'd met Maria. But Maria allowed me just to worry about the art and not have to worry about all the other things. And I feel bad for artists who have to worry about all of it, because it's
Thanks,
really
Drew.
yeah. It's two different mindsets,
It
it's
is
like,
hard, man. Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with a bigger company and they run this gamut of losing your invoice, and because the amounts of money get bigger. And I can remember, like, a company owed me like 10 grand one time, and I'd already done all the work. They were making product, and the people in the art department weren't taking my calls. But they called me every day. We need the work. We need it. We need it. We need it. I give it to them. And then all of a sudden I'm in accounting hell of trying to figure out how to get paid. And this was a huge company. And I was just like, man, they stretched it out like 90 days. I mean, I was almost broke by then.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with that. And so Maria has been great, trying to figure out ways to keep artists from being taken advantage of. Well, it started with me and then other people. And then she basically took everything we learned in the past, 20 years and put it into her book. And it's things that we learned the hard way. I mean, I feel if we told everybody how to do it, it would still be hard. So we might as well tell them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I mean, we've always been really free with all our information. I mean, I've taught, thousands of kids how to paint with Posca pens and encouraged them to paint surfboards or whatever. And, people are like, well, if you teach everybody how to do it, aren't you taking work for yourself? And I don't look at it that way. I think every little surf shop and skate shop should have a local artist that's supported and gets them making money and feeling confident and hopefully to do great things in the future. And with the book of Maria's, I just think that, why not give people all this information about business to help them? Because it's not anywhere. I mean, they're not teaching it in schools. Other than getting a job and collecting a paycheck, that's the only thing they really teach in schools. So if you're an entrepreneur or a freelance artist on your own, you're really in trouble, because you're not the business that you're in is not geared to deal with you unless you protect yourself with your business practices. And as an artist, you just want people to like your work, and that's just going to set you up for some problems. So it's important that you look at your...
Yeah, those both sides of that at the same time is complicated. And that seems to be the number one, email we get is just, I love doing art, but I don't know how to get through with the rest of it. And that's a really complicated thing when you're definitely not taught that at any point in your career. That's for sure.
Yeah, you have to treat your art business as a business.
Which people think is like selling out, or, you hear it all, that it's like this bad, I think we talked about, I don't know whose interview it was, but they were saying it's like when you were a fan of Weezer before they were Weezer, and then everyone like thought they were cool later. And then, it's like you have to find that space that Yeah, you still have to market it. Like, people aren't just going to find you on a street corner. It's like, you've got to get it out there, or you're not going to be able to make a career. You're going to have to go get a job.
It's like two sides. You have like the creative side, and you have to connect that to the other side of the brain. You have to put creativity into the business, and you have to put business into the creativity. And I'm sure there's equivalents of that in surfing or every other area of life or every other pursuit. There's a connection between like the understanding and the creativity and the flow, and all of those things have to be activated in order to proceed forward and evolve.
Yeah, well, that word, the selling out, is such a funny idea, because if you're an artist and you want to be an artist and you want to participate, this is the exchange that we're doing. I mean, if you're an artist, I don't care how great your art is, if you're not supporting your family, or if you're not able to do it on a level to where you're supporting yourself, it's not really a business. It's not really a job. You're not really participating. You're just, I'd love to sit around and create epic paintings that I could feel good about and show everybody. But, I'm participating in the world where, in order to do this, you have to, what's the best way to put this? It's like we're all participating in something. And if I want to participate and I want to be a part of this world, I got to figure out a way to contribute at what I'm good at. And people want to compensate me for that. But, it's not like you can paint just whatever you want. It's not, this is like such a hard topic, because people will say, like, when I put stuff on boogie boards that I was selling out, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, I'm making these things look cool, and these kids are stoked, and they catch their first wave on their boogie boards. How could that be bad? But it was only the surfers that were saying it. So the surfers, I guess they don't like boogie boarders. But so I had to get over that one really quick. And so I just thought about it for a while. And what I came up with was, nobody's responsible for taking care of my family but me. So unless that person who's saying I'm selling out or something, they obviously don't understand that, like, well, what's the alternative? Letting my family starve.
Yeah.
Like, so if I painted something for Google, is that selling out to paint something for Google? I thought it was pretty cool. Or I wouldn't paint something for something I disagreed with. Like, if somebody wanted me to paint some political propaganda or something, I'd probably be like, yeah, I don't really want to do that because I don't believe in that. Monsanto tried to hire me for a thing one time, and I declined.
Oh, hell no. Good job, Drew.
And it was a lot. It was a lot of money, but I was just like, okay, that's selling out, is doing something that you're not proud of, or you're breaking your ideals of who you are and what you think just for money. And there's a lot of people who are selling out. I don't think artists are one of them.
You know what's weird on that? It's like someone that, let's say Andy Warhol, became famous amongst other things for like painting a Campbell soup can, right? But then I bet if you like talk to the guy that actually designed the Campbell soup can, he'd be called a sellout because he used his art talent to create freaking art for a soup can. And you'd be like, oh, dude, you created a soup can? What a freaking sellout. And like some other guys like with white hair is like, I'm going to paint a soup can that someone else designed.
And suddenly it's art.
And then all of a sudden that's fine art. So maybe if you just like painted a painting of your painting, then it would be like next level.
Yeah, I think people have too much time on their hands if they're thinking about all those things. That's why I don't really like the pretentious art world.
Yeah, it's so phony, dude. I agree.
Yeah, it's
and especially in today's day and age, I mean, you can hype something up, and people need to be really aware. I mean, I think this is a good thing to kind of close with. Is, we talked about a lot of things today, and really this connection that we all have to each other, and it's real. And there seems to be a large amount of distraction in the world. And, that could present itself as a lot of different things. It could be art. It could be music. If you like music just because somebody else told you that it was cool, then that's the wrong reason to like it. Or an actress, or, a sports star, or an artist, or a politician, or whatever. I think we need to get back to reality of looking of like what is happening in reality, and what do you think? Not enough people are thinking and using this EMF transmitter and receiver to, try to understand what's going on around them. The modern world seems to be full of distractions and control mechanisms which are distracting them to not think.
Yeah.
And you could use the news as one, politics, all these different things. It's really frustrating to see. It's another side effect of this work and study and trying to get connected with all the stuff that I'm studying. Just things just become clearer and clearer. And I think that might be one of the reasons why it was kind of swept under the rug, many years ago and not taught in schools.
Yeah. It made people too aware.
Yeah, it made them less easy to deceive. And people everywhere, like if you're buying something like a product that's just because somebody else is wearing it or something, all these things are just ridiculous. If somebody likes my art, great. If somebody likes something legitimately, great. But imagine if it's kind of like with my art. Let's say my art was really cool, but like I was a complete jerk. Like that'd be a reason not to buy my art. That guy's a jerk. I don't want to buy his art. But yet we support, athletes, politicians, movie stars, and people who are not very nice people or aren't really worth the attention they're getting. And why are we doing this? We should be.
That's such a tough topic, because what if like Led Zeppelin was like their front man was Adolf Hitler? The music would still be epic. I would probably still listen to it, but I would feel bad about it.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't.
I'd listen to a cover of their song.
I think my message is just really, let's reward people that are doing great things, that are great examples, because I think our world right now is in desperate need of true leaders, but the true leaders don't want to be leaders.
Yeah.
It's all these other people are like narcissistic, crazy people.
Yeah.
They're parasites.
Yeah.
And yet we feed them. And so I just really think that, look into your community and you see the good people. There's great people doing so many great things. Like if you watch the news, you'd think the whole world was going crazy. But that's not the reality that I see in my world. And so, when I'm experiencing life, that is not the reality I see. It's being projected upon us by other people. And, in my reality, I'm not seeing that. So I want to reward the people who are doing great things within my community. And you need to be, each and every one of us need to be the best possible person that you can be. Because that's really all you have control of.
It's so true. Well,
by being the best.
So before we totally wrap up, because I want to give credit to this new book and all of that stuff, I do ask one question of every guest, and that is, if I had to drop you back in your childhood kitchen, I assume that's in South Carolina, what is the first thing you think of?
My childhood kitchen, my mom cooking. My mom was a fantastic cook.
What was your favorite meal?
Man, that's a tough one. All these things are going through. I remember she used to fry flounder. She used to make these big pots of soup. And, I think the pots of soup were epic.
Isn't that awesome how you can still smell it, like those smells of your house?
Yeah. And I cook now because I watched her cook as a child, so I know how to cook all those things.
That's awesome. Well, so I know we're promoting painting surfboards and chasing waves and artist's journey to success. Where should we send everyone to find you and your book and all of your artwork?
Yeah, to find the book, it's on Amazon and BookBaby. And if you want one signed, you buy it through drewbrophy.com.
And we'll put the link to Amazon in the show notes and make sure all of your social media is in there.
And the book is just really a reflection of the museum show, and it's really written for artists to let people know that you don't start out being a success. You have to be patient, and it's a lifelong journey. There's no plan B. If you decide to go on this route, you need to be confident and say, okay, this is what my life's going to be, and I'm in it for the long haul, and never give up. It wasn't easy, but it's an awesome journey. I tell all the backstory of meeting Matt Violas from Lost and all the people who helped me, and being able to do stuff for famous people, and what all that means. Meeting my wife and doing all the business and really making that turn towards success. But yeah, it's just a story that hopefully inspires artists to never give up and show them that there is a way. This is one way that you can become successful. Yeah.
That's great. Drew, thank you so much
this was amazing,
making
Drew.
time for us. I'm so glad we had time to chat and catch up at such an extended length and hit all those really important topics that we all care about so much.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think it's time. Thanks for having me and sharing this with people, because I think people need a change of perspective, and I think they're looking for it. So we need to steer them in the right direction.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys soon. It was great to see you guys in this last spring.
A longer trip
Costa
next
Mesa.
time.
That was great.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, you'll have to come back to the backyard and hang out by the fire.
Yeah, we're in. All right.
Well, thank you,
so
Drew
much.
Brophy. It was great, dude. Hope to talk to you guys again really, really soon. Send love to everyone for us, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey guys, we hope you loved that episode as much as we loved doing it for you. So if you go to shiftingperceptionspodcast.com, we have all the links and resources and cool stuff we talked about. You can go over there, find the episode, and get all of that stuff. On social media, please follow us, leave us comments. You can find us at Shifting Perceptions Podcast. And what else? Leave us a review if you could on iTunes. It helps us a bunch. A nice review and a rating goes a long way to thank us for what we're doing if you're into it. And please, if you haven't done so already, click subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And in real life, I am an artist, and if you'd like to see my art, you can go to jalders.com or find me on social media at jalders on all the different social media platforms. Chelsea, my wife, is a birth doula, and you can see her on ommamasdoulas.com or on Instagram at ommamasdoulas or at Chelsea Alders. We really appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Peace.